It was almost evening when a tall man stepped out of a taxi and walked toward the front gate of the Royal Crest Hotel. The city was glowing with lights, and the entrance of the hotel sparkled like a wedding hall. Cars rolled in, guests arrived with large bags, and bellboys rushed to open doors and carry luggage. But this man came alone. No one noticed him at first. He was dressed in plain clothes, a simple dark shirt, old jeans, and dusty shoes. He carried only a small black bag on his shoulder. His hair was a little messy, and there was a calm, tired look on his face. He didn't smile, he didn't look around. He just walked in slowly, like someone who had stayed in many hotels before, but expected nothing. At the reception desk, Samir, the front desk manager, was laughing with two junior workers. His suit was shining, and his name badge sat proudly on his chest. He stopped laughing the moment he saw the man standing silently in front of him. The quiet guest placed his ID and card on the counter. "I'd like a room," he said softly. Looked at the man from head to toe. Plain clothes, no expensive watch, no driver behind him. "Do you have a booking, sir?" Samir asked, with fake politeness. "No, I'm just checking in," the man replied. Samir forced a smile. "Our rooms are quite premium. They start from 35,000 rupees per night. Are you sure you want to stay here?" The guest looked at him calmly. "Yes." Samir raised his eyebrows slightly, but said nothing more. He took the ID and began typing on the computer, whispering something to the junior staff beside him. "I'm giving him a standard room. No welcome drink, no spa voucher," he said quietly. The junior boy laughed under his breath. A few moments later, Samir handed the key card to the guest without even making eye contact. "Room 509, take the elevator to the right." The man nodded, picked up his bag, and walked toward the elevator. No bellboy offered to help him. No one smiled. No one cared, but they didn't know. They had just made a very big mistake. Inside the elevator, the man pressed the button for the 5th floor, but when the doors closed, he quickly pulled out another card, a hidden one, and tapped it on a small black scanner near the panel. The light on the scanner blinked green dots suddenly. The panel changed, and a new button appeared, 12. He pressed it. The elevator went higher than the regular guest floors. No cameras, no music, just silence. When the door opened, it revealed a private hallway. Only one door existed there, with no room number, no lights, no sound. The man walked in, and the door closed behind him. The room was not just a room, it was a hidden office, a control room. The walls were covered in screens showing live CCTV from all over the hotel. The reception, the lounge, the kitchen, the staff area, the elevators. He removed his plain shirt, revealing a smart white collar. Shirt underneath. His posture changed. He stood taller now. He picked up a notebook from the table and began writing. Day 1 observation begins. Receptionist, rude, judgmental, no greetings, no service offered, no guest respect. He paused, then added, staff unaware, guest behavior below standard. Phase 1 successful. He closed the notebook and sat down to watch the screens. Meanwhile, downstairs Samir was still laughing. "Did you see his shoes?" he said to his coworkers. "Probably borrowed from someone." The junior staff giggled. Maria, the housekeeping girl who stood nearby, didn't laugh. She had been working there for 2 years now. She had seen hundreds of guests, rich, poor, loud, kind, rude, and she knew that judging someone by their clothes was always a mistake. "Sometimes the richest people don't show it," she said quietly. Samir rolled his eyes. "Please, Maria, you've watched too many dramas." Maria didn't reply, but something in her heart said, "This guest is not ordinary." Later that night, the quiet guest walked into the dining area. The restaurant was half full. Guests sat at tables with candles and soft music. He walked to an empty table in the corner and sat down quietly. The waiter didn't rush to him. He didn't offer a menu. After 10 minutes, the guest raised his hand. "I'd like some dinner," he said politely. The waiter sighed and walked over. "Sir, this area is for booked diners only. You didn't reserve a table." "I'm a guest in the hotel," the man replied. "I still need to check," the waiter said with a bored tone. The guest nodded. "Of course." After a few minutes, the waiter returned with a menu, dropped it on the table without a word, and walked away. From the corner of the room, Maria watched it all happen while arranging flowers on the side table. Her heart sank. Not because he was treated badly, but because he didn't complain. He didn't even show anger, and that silence was louder than a shout. At 11 p.m., the guest returned to his room. But before entering, he looked back down the hallway. He took out a small hidden camera and placed it near the emergency exit door. He had seen enough for day 1. Back in his private room on the 12th floor, he wrote in his notebook again. Dining service, unfriendly, no basic manners. Staff show clear class judgment. Maria observed kindness, watched silently, no judgment, maybe an ally. He put down the pen and looked at the screens once more. The hotel staff had no idea that the guest they ignored was the one who signed their salaries, the one who built the hotel, the one who owned the entire chain. And this time, he was not just visiting, he had come to test them. The next morning, the lobby of the Royal Crest Hotel looked just like it always did. Shiny floors, fresh flowers at the front desk, and polite smiles on staff faces. But behind those smiles were whispers. Quiet, suspicious whispers. Did you see that man last night? One bellboy asked another while polishing brass rails. The one in the old jeans. No luggage, no reservation. I thought he was a delivery guy, the other whispered back. But he took a room. Room King Antuzi Navi. They both laughed softly. He must have saved for a year just to stay one night here. Their laughter stopped when Maria walked by, holding a fresh towel basket. She glanced at them but said nothing. Inside, though, her heart didn't agree with what she heard. To her, the man didn't seem poor, just simple. There was a difference, and she had learned from her own life that simple doesn't mean small. In the staff canteen during lunch break, the whispers grew louder. Samir sat at the center table, as always, enjoying his biryani like a king in a suit. Around him, junior workers listened eagerly as he told stories. I told him our rooms are not cheap. He looked at me like he couldn't count numbers. Samir said, smirking. Did he get offended? One asked. No, Samir laughed. He just nodded and paid. Strange man. Someone leaned forward and whispered, I heard he paid with a black card. Samir paused. What? A black card. One of the rare ones. Even billionaires don't flash that often. Samir waved his hand. Nonsense. A man like that. Maybe a fake card, but the system accepted it. Another added. Samir's smile faded just a little. Then he shook his head. Look, stop with your movie theories. Some people just get lucky or fake things. There's no way that man owns anything. He looked like a bus station worker. Maria stood by the tea machine, quietly listening. She didn't speak, but something inside her didn't feel right. She remembered how the man had said thank you last night when she picked up a flower he accidentally dropped in the hallway. She remembered how he looked straight into her eyes, not with pride, but with calm confidence. Rich or poor, he didn't look afraid of anyone, and that was strange. Upstairs, in the secret control room on the 12th floor, the same man sat quietly watching everything unfold through the security cameras. Every hallway, every office, every corner of the hotel was now part of his silent test. He zoomed in on the staff canteen camera. He saw Samir laughing. He saw the others mocking. He saw Maria standing alone by the tea machine, her eyes serious. He took out his notebook again. Samir continues ego-driven behavior. Influences juniors negatively. MariaObservant.com. Not joining mockery. Whispers of my card spreading. Good. Let fear grow. He closed the notebook and leaned back, his face emotionless. He hadn't come to shout. He hadn't come to scare. He had come to watch, to listen, and when the right time came, he would speak. Later that day, Maria entered room 509 to clean. She knocked softly before entering. The man was sitting by the window, reading a book with no title on the cover. He looked up and gave her a polite nod. You may come in, he said gently. She walked in and began her work. I hope your stay is comfortable, she said quietly. He looked at her for a moment. It's been eye-opening. She paused. How so? He smiled slightly. People show their true faces when they believe no one important is watching. Maria nodded slowly. That's true. There was a small silence. Then he asked, how long have you worked here? Almost 3 years, she replied. Started as a part-time maid. Now I do full rooms and guest areas. He looked impressed. Do they treat you well? Maria hesitated. Most of the time, she replied honestly. But some staff, they treat people based on uniforms and shoes. He nodded. And you? I try to treat people the same, whether they wear gold watches or rubber sandals. The man smiled. It was the first time Maria saw warmth in his face. She finished her cleaning and turned to leave. Before she could open the door, he spoke again. Maria? She turned back, surprised he knew her name. Yes, sir, thank you. She left the room, confused but touched. That evening, Faraz, the quiet security head, was going through camera logs. He noticed something strange. One of the elevators, the one used by VIP guests, had a hidden access panel activated last night. Only top-level corporate staff had that kind of clearance. He checked the logs. Time, 11:08 p.m. User. Access card. Founder level. His eyes widened. There's no founder visit recorded, he whispered. He checked the camera footage, and there he was, the quiet guest, entering the elevator, disappearing to the hidden 12th floor. Faraz's heartbeat quickened. He picked up the phone to call the manager, then paused. What if he wants it kept quiet, he thought. He decided to wait. Observe. Watch, like the guest himself was doing. The next morning, Samir got a surprise call from the head office. Management inspection is happening this week. No names? No faces. A mystery guest is already inside, the voice said. Samir's hands started to sweat. His mind flashed. Could it be him? He forced a laugh. I doubt it. Just a regular guest. But he didn't believe his own words. He called a quick meeting with junior staff. From now on, he ordered, treat every guest like a VIP. Smile. Help, no jokes, no shortcuts. One asked. Why the sudden change, sir? No reason, Samir lied. Just do your job right. Back in room 509, the man sat calmly, sipping tea. He looked outside the window at the city below. Then he opened his notebook again. Day 2, fear has started. Staff adjusting behavior, but not from respect, from fear. Real test begins tomorrow. He closed the book and stood up. Outside his room, workers passed by, unaware that behind that quiet door sat the man who built their careers. The whispers were growing louder, but still, no one knew the truth. The quiet guest was not just a guest. He was the owner of the entire hotel chain, and he was watching. The morning sun rose slowly over the tall buildings of the city. The Royal Crest Hotel stood proudly in the middle of it all, shining in gold and glass. Everything looked normal on the outside. The guards opened the main gate, pulled heavy bags, and the reception smiled for the new guests. But inside the hotel, something was different. The staff didn't know his name, they didn't know his real identity, but they had begun to fear him. The quiet man in room 509, the guest, with plain clothes and no attitude, had become a topic of every whisper, every hallway conversation, every secret thought. Some believed he was a spy from the company, some believed he was the invisible boss, some, like Samir, didn't believe anything, or at least tried not to. But the truth was, the man's presence was changing everything. Andy knew it. Because now, it was time for the small test. At exactly 9 a.m., the man left his room and walked toward the lobby. He carried nothing with him, just a notebook hidden in his coat pocket. He didn't walk with speed or power. He walked gently, calmly, as if he didn't have anywhere important to go, and that made people nervous. As he passed by, workers stood straighter. Bellboys nodded quickly. The cleaning staff moved out of the way. Everyone noticed him, but no one dared to say a word. His first test began with a simple request. He walked up to a staff member near the lifts, a young worker, named Junaid, who had just joined 2 months ago. "Excuse me," the man said kindly. "Can you please tell me how to get to the business center?" Junaid looked confused for a second, then forced a fake smile. "It's closed right now, sir." He lied. The truth, it was open. But Junaid didn't feel like walking the guest all the way. The man nodded slowly. "I see, thank you." He walked away quietly, and noted in his book Junaid, unwilling to serve, lied to avoid effort, no kindness. Next he went to the garden area where a waiter was setting up morning tea for guests. "May I have some tea?" he asked politely. The waiter looked him up and down and said, "This is for VIP guests only. Please wait inside, sir." He didn't ask the room number, he didn't check the list. He just saw the man's simple shirt, and decided he was not important. The man stepped back and gave a light smile. "No problem." He wrote again in his notebook, "Waiter, disrespectful. Judged based on clothes, no guest check." But not all tests failed. When he walked past the staff hall on the ground floor, he dropped his notebook accidentally on purpose. It slid under a bench. Faraz, the silent head of security, who was walking nearby, noticed it. He picked it up and walked quickly after the man. "Sir, you dropped this," he said, offering it with 2 hands. The man looked surprised, then smiled. "Thank you." Faraz nodded and walked away, but he kept wondering, why was the notebook blank? Or was it written in invisible ink? The final test of the morning was the most important one. The man went back to the reception, where Samir was busy talking on the phone, pretending to handle a high-profile guest. The man stood quietly for a moment, then, when Samir cut the call, he said softly, "I've lost my towel. Can I get a new one?" Samir rolled his eyes. "Call housekeeping, sir. This is the front desk." The man looked him in the eye. "I did." No one picked up. Samir let out a fake sigh. "Fine. I'll send someone." He turned and shouted at a junior staff. "Oi, towel Lajao 509 main." Then, looked back at the man and said in a tight voice, "It will be there in 10 minutes. The man nodded, quietly walked away, and noted Samir. Complete failure. Zero respect. No personal attention. Shouts at juniors. This poor leadership. But when the man returned to his room, there was a towel waiting at the door, neatly folded, with a small note placed beside it. "Sorry for the delay. I wasn't sure you were being served right. If anything else is needed, just knock on room 510. Imran Bellboy." The man's eyes softened. He smiled genuinely for the first time that day. He added to his notes, "Imran small worker, big heart, took personal effort, kind soul." Then he circled the name Maria and added, "Observe closely next." That evening, Maria was on duty on the guest floors. She was checking each room for cleaning schedules when she saw the man walking toward the elevator, holding his back like he was in pain. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked, rushing to him. He nodded but seemed a little slow. "Let me help you. You shouldn't carry that bag if your back hurts." He smiled softly. "It's okay." But she didn't stop. She carefully took the bag from his shoulder and carried it for him. At the elevator, she asked, "Did someone bother you today? I've heard some staff aren't treating you well." He looked at her, his eyes full of calm. "No one bothers me," he said. "They just forget that all people deserve kindness." Maria didn't fully understand what he meant, but she nodded. When she returned to her room later, she found a note under the door. "Thank you, Maria. You're one of the few who makes this place feel warm." No name, but she smiled anyway, knew who it was from. Up in his secret office, the man added one last entry for the day. Tests complete. Most failed. Few passed. Imran Maria Faraz, worth keeping. Next phase begins tomorrow. I will raise the curtain now. He closed the notebook, looked at the camera feed one more time, and shut off the screen. Tomorrow would not be about hiding. Tomorrow the hotel would see him. All of him. The morning at Royal Crest Hotel started with the usual sparkle-polished tiles, sweet air freshener, smiling staff. But under that shine, something strange was building. Fear. The quiet guest in room 509 had been there for days now, saying little, demanding nothing, but somehow, he had everyone nervous. Samir arrived at the front desk earlier than usual. His tie was tighter, his shoes freshly polished. He looked into the mirror behind the reception and adjusted his collar. He had spent the whole night thinking, that man, the one who barely spoke, the one who asked for a towel, like it was a crime? He was too calm, too quiet, too confident. And now whispers were flying faster than hotel bookings. One said he saw him enter a restricted floor. Another said he had a black card issued only to founders. But this morning, a new fear came. A sealed envelope. It was delivered by a uniformed courier, directly to the hotel manager's office. No sender name, no return address. Just one line written in gold ink. To Management and Staff, Royal Crest H. Danish. The hotel manager opened it with curiosity, and immediately turned pale. His hands shook slightly as he read the short message inside. A mystery guest is staying at your hotel. This guest belongs to the highest level of company, leadership. Their identity will remain hidden. They are observing everything: behavior, respect, honesty. Final report will be submitted within 72 hours. Treat every guest as if they are the owner. Regional Executive Board. The message was short, but it struck like lightning. By 9 a.m., Mr. Danish called an emergency staff meeting. Every cleaner, waiter, bellboy, receptionist, all were gathered in the staff hall. Even Samir, who normally skipped such meetings, sat in the front row. Mr. Danish stood in front of them, red in the face, holding the paper like it was fire. There is someone here, he said. Someone powerful, someone watching. Gasps spread in the room. Samir's eyes widened. He already knew. It's that guy. Someone whispered room 509. Another added. Mr. Danish slammed at the table. We don't know who it is, he shouted. And we're not supposed to know. That's the whole point. But this person could be any guest. A man in jeans, a woman with messy hair, a child, anyone. He held up the letter. They are here to test us. And if we fail, the hotel's reputation is finished. The room fell into silence. That same moment, far above the staff hall, in a room with no number, the quiet guest sat watching the entire scene unfold on his screen. A small smile appeared on his face as he saw their reactions: panic, guilt, worry, but a few faces stood out differently. Maria.com, but concerned. Imran. Alert, standing tall. Faraz, serious, watching everything with sharp eyes. And of course Samir, sweating, trying to look professional, but clearly afraid. The man picked up his pen. The letter has landed. Time to see who changes out of fear, and who stays the same. After the meeting, everything inside the hotel shifted. Suddenly, every guest was treated like royalty. The gardener bowed to a delivery boy. The receptionist offered tea to a man in sandals. Housekeeping brought flowers to standard rooms, and Sam became a new person. Welcome, sir, he said with the widest smile to a guest carrying a plastic bag. Please allow me to help with your luggage. The guest blinked, confused. It's just a shopping bag. No problem, sir. You deserve it. He ran around offering help, pulling chairs, pressing elevator buttons. But it was clear to anyone watching, Samir wasn't being kind. He was being careful. Maria, on the other hand, didn't change much. She still smiled kindly, still did her work, still helped when no one was looking. But now, people started noticing her. Other workers whispered, she's too calm. Maybe she's the guest. A cook in the kitchen joked, don't upset Maria. What if she's the spy? Even Maria laughed at that one. But inside, she wondered, who is it really? She had one strong guess. The man in room 509, the one who thanked her for kindness without even asking her name, the one who looked into her eyes with such truth. Still, she kept quiet. In the evening, the quiet guest sat in the restaurant, dressed as always in simple clothes this time. The service was fast. Too fast. Would you like bottled water or mineral? Asked the waiter quickly. Tea or coffee? Anything else, sir? The man looked at him, then asked, you were the one who didn't offer me a menu on my first day, weren't you? The waiter froze. What do you mean, sir? The man gave a soft smile. No need to worry. Just keep being this kind, even when no one's watching. The waiter swallowed and nodded. He walked away, sweating. The man noted. Hospitality changed, but not from heart, from fear. Temporary, not true. Later that night, Maria walked past room 509, heading back to her shift. To her surprise, the door opened gently as she passed. The man stood there with a cup of tea. You're working late? He said softly. She smiled. Just checking floors before I go. He paused for a moment, then asked, can I ask you something? Of course, she replied. If you knew someone in this hotel was secretly your boss, how would you treat them? Maria thought for a moment. I'd treat them the same way I treat others. Because real respect shouldn't depend on position. The man looked at her quietly, then handed her the cup of tea. This is for you, she smiled. Thank you. As she walked away, he whispered under his breath, that's the answer I was waiting for. Upstairs, back in his hidden room, the man updated his notes again, Samir faking it. Polishing words, not behavior. Staff acting out of fear. Temporary. Maria, unchanged. Pure. Tomorrow, I remove the mask. He turned off the screens, closed the notebook, and looked out the window. The lights of the city blinked like stars, and somewhere inside the hotel, hearts were racing, because they all knew time was running out. The sun rose over the city like any other day, bright and proud. The Royal Crest Hotel stood tall in the middle of that morning light, but inside its walls, nothing felt normal anymore. Something was coming. Everyone could feel it. The staff were smiling more than usual, not because they were happy, but because they were scared. Every guest was treated like a VIP now, no matter how they looked, how they walked, or what they wore. Tea was offered before questions. Luggage was carried before requests. Even the smallest complaints were answered with, "We're so sorry, sir," and "right away, ma'am." It wasn't kindness, it was fear. The fear of him, the mysterious guest who might be their boss. And today was the day everything would change. At 9:30 a.m., the quiet man from room 509 walked into the lobby. No one missed it. Samir saw him first and immediately stood up straighter. He rushed from behind the reception desk with a fake bright smile. "Good morning, sir. Would you like me to arrange a cab or breakfast? We can also offer a complimentary spa today." The man gave a soft, unreadable smile. "No, thank you," he said gently. He walked past Samir slowly and headed toward the garden lounge. Samir turned back and whispered to a junior staff member, "Follow him, see where he goes." In the garden, the man sat alone under a large umbrella. He looked peaceful, calm, like someone enjoying a holiday, but inside his mind, a storm was building. From his coat pocket, he pulled out a list. Names of staff members. Next to each name, he had written one of two things. Heart pretender he had observed for days. He had tested them in silence. Now it was time to speak. Back inside, Mr. Danish, the hotel manager, received a message on his phone. Unknown number. No name, just one line. Call all staff to the conference hall in 1 hour. Mr. Danish froze. He knew exactly who it was. The message was not a request, it was an order. At 11 a.m. sharp, the large conference hall of the hotel was filled. Waiters, guards, cleaners, front desk workers, cooks. Everyone sat in neat rows, whispering in low voices. Samir sat in the front row, tapping his foot nervously. Farah stood near the back, arms folded. Maria walked in quietly and took a seat beside Imran, who looked confused but curious. "Is something wrong?" Imran whispered. "I don't know," Maria replied, "but something is about to happen." The room fell silent when the door opened. The quiet guest entered. He was not wearing simple clothes today. He wore a clean dark suit, no tie, but a badge on his chest with a small silver logo. The logo of the company that owned all Royal Crest hotels. Whispers broke out instantly. "That's him. It really was him. He's the owner." He walked to the stage without rushing, without smiling, without looking around. He picked up the mic, and then, silence. Complete silence. He looked at the crowd for a moment, slowly, one face at a time. Then he finally spoke. "I checked in quietly," he said, his voice calm. "No one knew who I was. That was the plan." He paused. "I didn't come here to inspect your uniforms, your bookings, or your kitchen. I came to see your hearts." The words hit the room like thunder. "I came to see," he continued, "how you treat a guest when you believe they are not important." He looked at Samir. The man froze in his seat. "I came to see who gives respect to everyone, not just to those who wear gold watches." He walked slowly down the stage steps and into the crowd. "I came to see who smiles for real, who listens, who doesn't judge." He pointed to Farah's security head, quiet, loyal, observant. "You noticed my elevator usage. You didn't tell anyone. You respected the rules. Thank you." Farah stood taller and gave a respectful nod. Then he pointed to Imran. "Bellboy, you brought me a towel even when no one asked you to. You added a note. That note was simple, but it meant something." Imran's eyes widened, and he smiled with disbelief. "Thank you," the man said. And then finally he looked at Maria. You didn't change when the letter came. You didn't run after me like others. You were kind from the beginning. Pure respect. No show." Maria smiled softly, eyes shining. "I thank you for being the soul of this hotel." Then his voice turned cold. "But some of you changed overnight." He turned to the rest of the staff. "You smiled too wide. You bowed too deep. You ran too fast. But not because your heart told you to, only because you were scared." Samir began to sweat. "And that is not service." He returned to the stage. "Real service," he said slowly, "is not in your hands or your feet. It is in your heart. I will now send a report to head office. Some of you will be promoted, some will be transferred, some may not return." The room fell deadly silent. He looked up again and said his final words. But today, I don't want fear in your hearts, I want change. He placed the microphone down and walked out without another word. Outside the hall, he stood alone under the sky. The city was bright, but his eyes were full of thought. Behind him, people were crying, some were smiling, some were broken. But inside that hotel, something new had begun, not a punishment, a transformation. That evening, Maria found a small box. In her locker, inside it was a letter. You are now promoted to guest relations supervisor, not because of your skills, but because of your heart. It was unsigned, but she knew who had written it. Faraz received a new badge, Chief of Security. Operations for the whole region. IMRAN was sent for special hotel training, a full scholarship paid by the company, and Samir's ID card stopped working the next morning. A letter waited for him at the gate. You may apply again after 1 year, but not for a title, for a second chance to become better. That night, the man packed his bag quietly, looked around room 509 one last time. He picked up his notebook and wrote his final words. Royal Crest tested. Some broken, some bright, but the future is ready. He closed the notebook, and walked out of the hotel, just as silently as he had entered. But this time, the world behind him was no longer the same. 2 days had passed since the mysterious guest in room 509 walked out of the Royal Crest Hotel, but his presence still echoed in every hallway. The hotel felt quieter, not from silence, but from reflection. People had stopped whispering about who he was now, they whispered about what he had done. Some staff still couldn't believe the truth. The simple man in dusty shoes had owned not just the hotel, but the entire chain. While they were judging his clothes, he was silently judging their hearts. And now, the effects of his visit were finally unfolding. Samir sat alone at a roadside tea stall, wearing casual clothes instead of his usual designer suit. His Royal Crest ID card had been taken away. He was no longer front desk manager, just Samir. He replayed the quiet man's words again and again in his mind. Real service is not in your hands or your feet. It is in your heart. For years, Samir had built a career on charm and style. He knew how to speak fancy English, how to smile at rich guests, how to impress with words. But now, he realized none of it mattered. All that time, the real test wasn't about appearance or performance. It was about intention. He sipped his tea slowly and looked down. Maybe I deserve this, he whispered. For the first time in years, Samir didn't feel angry. He felt ashamed, and somewhere deep inside, he knew this was not the end. Maybe it was a new beginning. Back at the hotel, the changes were visible everywhere. Guests were being welcomed with genuine smiles, not plastic ones. Staff now helped before they were asked, and not just the VIPs even. Small gestures had returned, clean napkins, fresh flowers, soft greetings. The heart of the hotel was beating again, and at the center of it all was Maria. Maria walked through the lobby wearing her new uniform, clean blue with a silver name tag that now said, Maria, Guest Relations Supervisor. She had never imagined herself in such a position. She had joined as a cleaner, sweeping floors with her head down. Now, guests came to her with questions, and staff looked to her for guidance. But what made Maria truly different was that she hadn't changed because of the promotion. She had been this way all along today. She walked over to a young woman sitting alone with her suitcase. Is everything all right, ma'am? Maria asked gently. The woman smiled. I came early, and my room isn't ready yet. Maria didn't say, please wait. She didn't say, policy says 2 p.m. She simply smiled, beckoned, said, let me arrange something for you. She offered the guests tea and let her rest in the business lounge. A small act, but it made a big difference, and that's what the silent owner had been searching for all along. Upstairs, in a corner office now unlocked, Mr. Danish sat reading through a new email. It was from head office. It had a list of promotions, transfers, and feedback from the secret owner. At the bottom, in bold letters, was a single line, reveal the identity. Let them know who I was. Mr. Danish stood up slowly, holding the email like a truth he had waited years to see. He walked out into the staff area, gathered everyone, and cleared his throat. I know you've all been wondering, he said. The guest in room 509, the one we feared, guessed about, whispered about. He held up a large photo. This is him. His name is Aries Khan. He is the founder and current chairman of the entire Royal Crest Hotel Group. He built the first hotel with his own hands. 18 years ago. Gasps spread across the room. Some covered their mouths. Some looked at each other in disbelief. Mr. Danish continued. He travels around the country in secret, checking hotels without warning. He doesn't want red carpets. He doesn't want welcome songs. He wants to see truth in the people who run his dream. Then he looked around the room and said softly, and now, he knows who you really are. Imran, who was cleaning a hallway, got the news from Maria. She showed him the photo on her phone. That's him, Imran said, staring. Maria nodded. Imran smiled and whispered, I thought he was just lonely. He wasn't, Maria said. He was watching. Then Imran laughed. At least I gave him a towel on time. Maria laughed too. It was a small moment, but filled with warmth, the kind that can't be taught in any training. Faraz, the head of security, didn't react much. He simply nodded when told. He had always known something was different about the man. He had followed the rules, stayed silent, and done his job with honesty, and now, his reward wasn't just a new title. It was respect from the man who mattered most. Faraz was now in charge of training security teams across the region, but more than that, he was trusted. And in this industry, that meant everything. Later that evening, a special letter was pinned on the staff notice board. It was from Aries Khan himself, to the staff of Royal Crest. When I walked through your doors, I was tired, not just in body, but in heart. I had seen too many smiles that weren't real, too many greetings that were only 4 gold cards. But here, I saw both the good and the broken. I saw judgment in some, but I also saw hope. I saw Samir fail, but I also saw him look in the mirror. That is the first step to becoming better. I saw Maria shine, and I hope you all learn from her heart. I saw Imran act without reward, and that is the true test of service. And now, I leave you with one gift. Not money, not medals, but a promise. If you carry this lesson forward, not just in front of cameras, but in your daily lives, Royal Crest will not just be a hotel. It will be a home. Aries Khan cried while reading it. Some smiled with closed eyes. But everyone felt something real, something that didn't come from fear, but from truth. And so, the quiet guest, who had come with no name and no noise, had left behind something more powerful than orders or rules. He left behind a mirror in which everyone had seen their own face, and now, they had the choice to become better, or stay the same. The days that followed were different. The Royal Crest Hotel, once filled with surface smiles and cold routines, had started to change from the inside, not because someone told them to, but because they had seen themselves. Aries Khan, the silent guest, had entered their world without a name, without demands, and he had left behind something far more powerful than fear. He had left behind truth, and now, that truth was teaching everyone a lesson. Samir sat outside the hotel gate, watching the sunrise behind the tall windows he once walked through with pride. For the past week, he had done nothing. No meetings, no suits, no desk. Just thinking. Every time he looked at the building, you didn't see bricks or glass. He saw his old self. The way he had laughed at guests who looked poor. The way he shouted at junior staff. The way he had pretended to care only when someone important walked by. And now, the words Aries Khan had spoken haunted him. You smiled too wide. You bowed too deep. But not because your heart told you to, only because you were scared. He remembered that sentence like a scar. But even with shame, there was something else growing in his heart. A desire to fix himself. That afternoon, he walked toward the hotel, not through the main entrance, but to the back, where staff entered. He met Maria near the side door. She looked surprised but not angry. Samir looked down and said, I came to say sorry. Maria didn't speak at first. Then she asked gently, why now? Samir sighed, because I never said it when I should have. I judged people by clothes. I made others feel small. I thought status mattered more than service. He looked up slowly, but I was wrong. I wasn't a leader. I was only loud. Maria smiled, not with pity, but with hope. Then, maybe now, she said, you'll be quiet enough to listen. Samir smiled back, for real this time, and Maria offered him a cup of tea, not because he deserved it, but because everyone deserves kindness when they want to grow. Inside the hotel, a new chapter had begun. Staff meetings were no longer just about rules. Now, they included stories, real ones. About respect, about small kindnesses, about mistakes turned into strength. Mr. Danish, once stiff and distant, had changed too. He stood before his team with softer eyes. Every week, he announced, one staff member will be recognized not for perfect work, but for showing heart. And the first name he said aloud was, Imran. The young bellboy came forward slowly. Surprised you acted with no camera on you, Mr. Danish said. You wrote a kind note, gave a towel, and smiled when no one told you to. Imran's eyes filled with tears. I only did what felt right, he said softly. And that, Mr. Danish replied, is exactly what this hotel needs. Applause filled the room. Not forced applause. Real. Faraz. The security head now led weekly workshops for the other hotel branches. He didn't teach them how to fight or check IDs. He taught them how to watch with patience, how to notice things others miss, and how to serve without speaking, just by being present. When asked by a trainee what he had learned from Aries Khan's visit, Faraz said only one line. Silence watches louder than words. But the most beautiful change was in the little moments. A cleaner stopped to help an elderly guest with his cane, not because she was being watched, but because she cared. A chef sent a slice of cake to a child who looked sad in the restaurant, without asking permission, just from instinct. A guard opened the gate for a man on a bicycle and said, welcome, sir, with the same respect he gave to cars with tinted windows. The hotel was still the same on the outside, tall, golden grand. But on the inside it had become warmer, more human. And then, one morning, a surprise arrived at the front desk. A letter, simple, white, sealed. On it was written in soft gold ink, to Maria. Maria opened it carefully, heart beating fast. Inside was a handwritten note. Asterisk, asterisk, I have traveled across cities, testing hotels, judging behavior, looking for true service. But I found something rare in you, not service, but soul. I don't promote hearts like yours, I protect them. You are the kind of leader who doesn't lead with orders, but with example. If you ever wish to grow beyond this building, reach out to me. The future of this company needs people like you. Until then, keep making the Royal Crest a place of kindness. Aries Khan, asterisk, asterisk. Maria sat down slowly, her hands shaking. She didn't smile right away. Instead, she closed her eyes and simply breathed. It wasn't pride she felt, it was peace. Later that evening, she found Samir sitting on the bench outside again. She sat beside him and said, "He sent me a letter." Samir smiled slightly. "I didn't get one." Maria looked at him. "Maybe you don't need one right now. Maybe your letter is being written by your actions." He looked up. "You really think I can come back?" She nodded. Double quotes. "Not to your old job, but to a new self." Samir gave a slow, deep breath. "Then I'll keep writing my story. One right choice at a time." That night, the hotel felt alive, not because of music, not because of events, but because of meaning. The chandeliers still sparkled, but now they lit faces with honesty. The reception phones still rang, but now voices on the other end sounded warm, and room 509, it was empty. But every staff member who walked by felt something in that hallway, a memory, a lesson, a reminder that greatness doesn't wear a badge, it doesn't shout from behind a desk, it walks quietly, watches silently, and leaves you better than it found you.